Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode of the What Worked For You show. Today, I want to talk about something our guest is a 3 decades worth of experience expert at. So he has seen people and what do people need no matter what it is you do, and that is leadership. Here's the problem. Just because you're in a position of leadership does not make you a leader. I think everyone listening to this show has had this experience where maybe it was a boss, a manager, a business owner, whatever, just someone in charge of something, and you had a thought that was like, maybe they're not the best at this, okay? Maybe it was a little stronger thought. Whatever the case, being a leader and being developed as a leader are two different things. Our guest today, he's got over 3 decades experience with this. He runs his own company today. He coaches and mentors leaders in numerous industries. He's done it corporately. He's done it in his own business, and he's grown it quite successfully doing just that, making an impact. So without further ado, Ron Reich, it is a pleasure to have you on today to talk about this incredibly important subject. How are you?
Oh, Frank, number one, thank you for having me, and I mean that. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm doing very well. And I mean, just right off the bat, I don't want to take anything away from you. You said the key word, as far as I'm concerned, relative to leadership, right in the beginning, and that's people. That's what it's all about. That's what this is all about.
Mhm. So let's start there because you bring up a point that I'd like to ask you about. It's not one of my questions, but that's okay. It's now a question. And that is this. We live in a world that is always emphasizing skills. Understandably so, right? College has gotten a bad rap in recent years. Some would argue it's necessary, maybe so. Trade, we have a lack of trades. I'm in the real estate world, so I'm always hearing about construction, but it is by no means limited to just construction, where we need more of this, more of that in the world. So trade
Mhm.
schools have been talked about, and people go to school for 12, 13 years, then they go to college, or now it's trade schools, or maybe they're adult in the field and they want to do something, so they're going to school. And now you have AI, and it's like knowledge, 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 knowledge. But I have never, and I got gray hair. I've been around for a little bit now. I, I've never seen a scenario, unless it's maybe psychology, psychiatry, where the subject of people is emphasized to the same degree as skills.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
yeah. No, it's so true. And I mean, it's one thing I love to do, whether it's with an individual coaching client or whether I'm facilitating a class, is just to ask people, as a leader, what are some of the roles you play? What are some of the biggest roles you have as a leader from a big picture perspective? Consider that. They'll think about it and go through the list. And if I'm doing a session with a group of people, we'll look at the flip charts and I just ask them what's interesting. They'll look, and again, long story short, sometimes they'll come up with it themselves. Sometimes I just need to ask the question, how much technical information is on your list? People will look and it's like, oh, next to none. And I was like, that's right. What's your role as a leader? Oh, it's about the people. It's about guiding, teaching, motivating, setting expectations, getting the vision out there, and all those other things. Absolutely. And again, I say this with all respect. Now that you have become a leader, you have the people to do the work. And I don't mean, the people, I don't mean that, oh, the little people do the work. That's not my intent with that. My point is, as you move up the ladder, it's not about doing the work anymore. It's about getting the work done through your colleagues.
Mm, I love it. Getting the work done through your colleagues. I literally heard somebody say recently, yesterday actually, somebody was telling me they were working for a boss, manager, whatever, at a job. And this was some time back, a couple decades back, and they said, and they left to start their own business. And I said, well, why'd you do that? And they said, well, it's because I was putting in all the work, the effort, bringing all the value to the company, and my boss was taking all the credit.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
That still happens today. How
Yes.
how is it that you would think with all the information available today, and you would even think that would be common sense, don't take all the credit when someone else is doing all the work. How does such an elementary thing, in your opinion, continue to be such an issue?
I think, Frank, I'm going to answer your question directly, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. I think for me, it's because it's so much about what you were saying before earlier, is that skill, 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 get the work done, results, results. We need results, and what do the numbers say? And it's like, and we forget, wait a second, people need to be recognized. People need that respect, and it's also one of the first things I do. And again, whether it's with an individual client or in a group that or in a group session, I just ask them, folks, what do you think are the major reasons across the United States, across industry? And in fact, Frank, if you don't mind, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. I will ask you, what do you believe are the major reasons employees become unhappy at work?
So I've had employees. So I will tell you what my experience was, and that was lack of appreciation. I would say that'd be the one where you
Number
think
three,
you're supporting them,
that's it.
but not. But the problem I ran into was I thought I was appreciating them, but I was doing the way that made sense to me, not the way they needed it.
Oh, Frank, we we are so on the same page. That's the reason I'm laughing.
Okay,
Simply
good.
because that's exactly what we're talking about here. The number one reason people become unhappy at work is their relationship with their boss. The number two reason is their relationship with their peers, their colleagues, their coworkers. Number three, a lack of recognition, a lack of respect. The key point is there's no separation between those three things, meaning people become unhappy with their boss because the boss is not providing enough recognition or enough respect to his or her direct reports, and people become unhappy. And it's the same thing amongst coworkers and colleagues. There's not enough respect going on.
Yeah.
And the one it occurred to me not long ago, and I should have been doing this for years and years. It just never entered my head. I always would say to people, so how can we recognize people? And we would brainstorm a list, 11, 12 things, whatever it might be. And finally, I realized I was like, you know what? How can you make absolutely sure that when you're going to recognize somebody, it's important to them? Oh, maybe you should ask them, how do you like to be recognized? What's important to you? What works for you? And it changes over time. I've said to people, and I deny this to absolutely nobody. I've been at this for a long, long time. It's about 32 years, okay? 30 years ago, 31 years ago, the recognition that I needed people coming to me. Ron, good job. Ron, wow, this is going really well. I'm really enjoying this. Oh, good, good, good. I needed that validation.
Mhm.
Frank, at this point in time, with 32 years of experience, I still like that. I don't need it as much anymore. And I say proudly because I know I'm good at what I do and I'm going to do a good job. My point is, what helps me now, or how I love to be recognized. Hey, Ron, can I ask you something? Can I run something past you that's going on with me or my business? Wow, sure, I'll be glad to talk to you. And you've got to keep asking because people change and things change.
You know, when you're talking about people changing, not only do people change, but one thing I have found is also not only do people change, but when you go from male to female and vice versa,
Absolutely.
different world. And I bring that up
Yes.
not to get into sexism or anything like that, because it's not really that. It's as men, I used to have a lot of women working for me, so they kept me very honest. And I
Yeah.
still think I failed, but I assure you, they kept me honest. But before I had that experience with working with various ladies that were quite frankly good at what they did, I was mostly around men because in the investment space I'm in, it's primarily men.
Yes.
And now you have these people in the office helping you, and you're just I mean, they're not messing around, which was great. But I also learned little by little. When I'm talking to the contractors outside, that wasn't how they wanted to be spoken to.
Right.
I had to learn how to speak their language. And the thing is, as men, we're like point and shoot kind of people, right? Just like go get it done kind of thing. And we had a lot, sometimes it's hard to slow down because we're like, go, 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 go. And it's like, but that wasn't necessarily what they were looking for.
Right. Right.
And so I learned we got to like totally change things up.
where where what I'm getting from this too, and I'm a huge believer in this, is the need for personality assessments because we are all different and we all have different communication styles. I speak for myself when I say I believe the DISC assessment, if you're familiar with it,
Yeah. Yeah.
the yeah, I think it's the best one on the market. And that's neither here nor there. My point is though, people want to be communicated with differently. Like you said, some people are fast paced. Some people are slower paced. Some people are task oriented. Some people are relationship oriented. There's no right or wrong, good or bad within that at all, except I need to talk to a relationship oriented person differently than somebody who's task oriented. And it's the same thing, faster or slower paced. If somebody is slower paced, I need to slow the heck down. And again, Frank, I'm not kidding because I smiled when you said speak their language. That's the exact terminology I use. I always say to people, you want to deliver your message. Always you want to do that, of course, except to be most effective, you need to speak their language,
Hmm.
and they learn that from the disc. And all of these things tie into being an effective leader.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
And how do you encourage leaders? And the reason I ask this is I'm thinking back through my own personal experience, and I've heard countless stories from others as well in my field. It's easy when you're in a position of leadership. Maybe you're a business owner, maybe you're a manager, whatever it is. It's so easy to feel like you're failing. So you just keep busy. Let's do the job. The whole
Hmm.
results, 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 results.
Right.
But then when someone brings an issue up, you're like, "Ugh." And sometimes you don't want to talk about it, not because you don't recognize the importance, but it's like, oh, this is a look in the mirror moment. This is
Hmm.
we're going to have to address a shortcoming. I have to address a shortcoming within me moment. And we all know human nature. We don't like to address our it's just human nature.
Right.
How do you help people take that idea of a shortcoming, feeling like a failure, feeling like you let somebody down, maybe a one
Hmm.
person, maybe a team, whatever it is, and turn that into a let's embrace this because the benefit of doing it is so much better than giving the problem so much energy.
Hmm.
Easy to say, harder to do. My experience.
I'm trying to think of how I want to frame my response. I think where I'll start is with emotional intelligence. And the way I like to talk about emotional intelligence, a big part of it for me is people, anybody at any level, particularly the leaders and managers, still anybody at any level, we all need to be keenly aware what are our strengths? What do we do well? And we need to be able to articulate that to people. What do you do well? And I'll share a couple of mine with you right now because I know myself really quite well. I'm a very good facilitator. Whenever I'm going to present a class, I understand the material well, I prepare, I ask good questions, I generate good discussion. I'm a good resource to people. Over the past 25 years or so, however many years, I've read over 400 leadership books. And that helps me because I can pull information from those books, share it with people, share book recommendations and those kinds of things. Now, that's all well and good. That's an important piece. The other part of this, though, is we also need to know what our limitations are. Where am I not as strong? And needing to be able to articulate that. And I am totally open with my limitations as well. I'm not very strong technically. I never have been. I never will be. When I log on to a session like this, Frank, truly, my heart is it's not pounding because that's too strong a statement. Still, it's like I hope technically this will be okay because I really don't know what to do if something goes wrong. I'm not a very good writer. I tend to struggle with that. And the point I'm trying to get across is that's one of the things I talk to leaders about, where it's like nobody is strong at everything. That's okay. Let's talk about it. We can work on it. We can try to improve it. Additionally, something else that has been my direct experience, and this is more when I'm doing group sessions or a class itself. When I do the intro, when we do our icebreaker, what I like to do, here, you need to share your name, your company, your job, fine, a passion, all that other stuff. Talk about a challenge as well that you want to address, and I just have the group talk to each other for about a half an hour. Just introduce yourselves to each other. Let's get to know each other a little bit. It is incredible because when we debrief that, I ask at the end of that activity, how is this going to help us to work together? Inevitably, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. People have the same challenges that I have. And you know what? We could probably work on these together. I bet you we could cross pollinate here. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
it goes to again helping each other, leveraging each other's strengths and helping each other with our limitations. So I hope that answers your question.
Now, that's true. It's so easy, especially for business owners, entrepreneurs, to feel alone. I mean, shoot, people will go out online all the time and say it's a lonely road. Get used to being alone. It's normal to be alone. And you're just like, yeah, that's pumping me up.
Yeah, yeah, right, right.
Right. But at the same time, there is a lot of truth to it. But the question I would have is, okay, no, if you're the entrepreneur, no, you probably won't be having lunch with the whole gang of team people every day.
Right.
But let's flip that. Does it have to be as just because maybe it's not as populated a world, that doesn't mean you have to be lonely.
That's right. That's exactly right. And you shouldn't be. I mean, one of the other things, four critical traits that leaders possess, and this is based on research.
Mhm.
The good leaders need to be visible, approachable, connected, and consistent. And they also need to spend time in what I like to call the balcony. And from a visibility perspective, simply for me, walking around, just walking the floor, walking the hallways, just talking to people, getting to know them professionally, personally, every which way.
Hmm.
My wife's cousin, Gerald, is one of the top people at the FDA.
Hmm.
Talking to him one day, totally unscripted, totally. He's like, Ron, you know what I love to do at work? And I was like, what, Gerald? He said, I love walking around. And I'm thinking to myself, oh goodness, Gerald, keep going. This is going to be a good story. I
Yeah.
love walking around. And I was like, well, what do you do when you walk around? You wouldn't believe what I learn. I learn about people, what their families are like, what's going on with them. I learn about the projects, how, what's going well and what the struggles are. And he finished with this, and I thought this was incredibly insightful. He said, you know what my goal is ultimately when people see me around? And I was like, what, Gerald? He said, I want people to think, oh, there's Gerald. Not, oh my God, here comes the executive director of, everybody look busy. And again, it doesn't have to be lonely. That's a choice from my perspective.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, I think that covers the intro. So, all right. So we can begin now. No. Uh, so you spent 3 decades helping leaders grow across industries, pharmaceuticals, high tech, small entrepreneur, larger entrepreneurs. Uh, what do you think, looking back, is the one thing, if there is even is one thing, that helped shape your effectiveness at helping leaders?
I'm gonna go back to something that happened to me many, many years ago. And it wasn't with a leader. This is when I first got into training and development. I was working for Toshiba many, many years ago in the copier and fax division. That's how long ago it was. And I was doing sales training. Okay. I had done a class in Boston, and I was at the dealership in Boston with a group of people that I had trained. One of the ladies in the class came up to me. Oh, Ron, the class was good. I liked it a lot, except the stuff you talked about, that's not real world. That's not how things go in the field. We just don't use it in the field. And I was like, uh-oh, uh-oh. I mean, if this is true, this is a real problem. So I started spending a lot of time in the field, a lot of time in the field with the sales reps, with the sales managers. And first of all, her comment was way off base. And my
Mm,
point is, secondly, though, one of the things that helps to shape me is that I try to stay as current as I possibly can so that I know what I'm talking about. I'm out there, I'm in the field, I'm in the trenches with people. And that's one of the reasons I think that, or what's one of the things that has helped to make me extremely effective, where it's like, hey, my direct experience has been, my direct observations have been, and it's fun. I mean, for me, I love doing that. I love getting out in the field or just shadowing people and just all of those things.
mm. Yeah, the whole idea of being in touch.
Exactly. That's the
It's,
connected from what we were talking about before, the
yeah,
visible, approachable. That's the connected piece.
got it, got it. Yeah, just it's when you're in touch with what's going on, it literally it can change your perspective almost instantly in
Oh
some
my goodness,
cases.
absolutely. In staying, I mean, it does, Frank. It changes it dramatically because it's no longer, well, this is what the theory says you should do. Is it no, here, based on my experience and based on my observations, this is the recommendation I'm going to make to you.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's just completely different, completely different.
Yeah, so true, so true. You mentioned earlier you like facilitating.
I do.
And I don't hear that often. I actually kind of like it too, right? Because when you're a facilitator, you know going in, you've got two parties that, there's a little bit of a, in the traditional sense of facilitators coming in and, being the middle person, so to speak. And I think as we get older, we figure out, or at least most people figure out, that usually when an issue happens, it's never just one side's fault. There's usually very rare is it both parties not involved to some degree. Now, one might be more than the other, but
Yes,
usually
that's right.
there's enough to go around practically all the time. When you walk into discussions like that, and I've walked into them, so I do enjoy them because walking in, party A, party B, they think there's a resolution here. We just got to help them both get past the initial story they're telling themselves
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
make that happen.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your experience been like that, and what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from facilitating?
I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is essentially talk as little as possible.
Mm,
Just say as little as possible. Let the others go. Let the others go. One of the other key things as well is setting clear expectations for the parties involved. Meaning
mm,
simply, okay, Frank, listen, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk this through. My wife's name is Lori, so I'll just use her as if she's the other party involved here. We're going to say, actually, I talked to both of you, Frank, Lori, we're going to talk about this today. Can we please agree to the following expectations? When one of you has the floor, that person has the floor. No interrupting. You listen to that individual. The individual finishes, then you'll have the opportunity to speak. And then, Frank, you'll need to honor Lori by listening to her carefully.
mm,
Just those types of things, and just letting people know, and having the credibility that I'm here truly to help you. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to go to one side or the other. I'm just here to let you air your thoughts, if you will, or get things on the table, and then let's figure out the best way to go from here.
mm. I love it. I love it. What have you found the success rate to be? So,
Not bad. Not bad.
mhm,
I mean, again, many times what I also find so interesting though, very often the issue that people think they have is not the issue.
that's a victory.
And it's like
That's a,
I had a situation one night, can candidly. uh I have a client in Indianapolis, okay, family owned heavy duty towing and transport company. Very, very long story short, the owner's son and the owner's daughter work there, and they are, well, I think while they do care about each other, there's also a lot of oil and water involved, if you will, where it's like, I'm going to take this over. No, I'm taking it over when dad retires, or whatever it might be.
mhm,
And we went out to dinner one night, and we got to the restaurant probably about 7 o'clock, whatever it was. And I didn't know either one of them that well at the time. And I was saying, and in fact, the son said to me, "What are we doing here?" A little confrontational. It's like, Jacob, really, all I want to do is just get to know you a little bit better. Well, what do you want to know? And I was like, okay, this is going to be a little bit. My
mhm,
whole point, we didn't leave the restaurant until about 11 o'clock. And,
mhm,
the wait staff, they were cleaning the tables off where it's kind of like, you can leave now. And again, my point is the two of them ended up talking and talking and talking and talking. And I don't need to get into the specifics, obviously, here. They were ended up talking a lot about what their upbringing was like, what happened with them, and just getting into a bunch of different issues that I'm not qualified to handle. And that's not my point. My point simply is a few days later, I got a call from the VP who was like, "What did you do with them? Oh my God, this is incredible how well they're working together right now." And I was like, yeah, bring them together, have somebody in the middle to keep things on an even keel. You'll be amazed where it goes.
Wow. As you were saying that, I thought to myself, isn't it interesting how it's almost like a set of dominoes? If you tip it one way, it'll go one direction. If you tip it the other way, it'll go totally different. So if you have a scenario of a couple of people conflicting and there's no one facilitating and we get to the judgment phase, which usually happens roughly about the snap of a finger,
Right, right.
then it just sends the conversation in a totally different way. It's fairly effortless and rarely does it end well.
Yes,
But if we maybe go the other way and let's not judge for a moment, like you said, let's listen and really listen, not the
right,
eye roll, the whole thing, like actually, and just spend, again, it's more work. It's not as quick as clicking send on an iPhone text message,
right.
right? Like we have to put some work in here, but you get those scenarios was like you have two people that they were at each other's throats, maybe they didn't like each other. Well, next thing you know, they're best friends. And
Right.
all it took was, and I love that you talked about upbringing because so much of how we see the world is, quite frankly, tied to our experiences.
That's right.
That's natural.
That's exactly right.
Disconnecting from that and listening, that's real work.
Right. Well, and I mean, very often I will ask people too, whether it's in a court. Let's leave it at corporate. I mean, yeah, it's point. But said I think we should launch this product. And Frank, you're saying, no, I don't think we should launch this product because, A, B, and C. And I'm saying, well, D, E, F. No, 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 no. I said, who's right? Both of us, essentially, because we both have our own perspectives, and that's okay. What we need to determine is based on what's best for the organization and what direction are we going to go.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think I phrased that the way I really wanted to. My point simply is you're entitled to your perception. I'm entitled to my perception. There's nothing wrong with that, nothing whatsoever, except we do need to find what's best for the organization somewhere in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that'll never go out of style.
No, because it's about the people.
It's about the people, and it's
Right.
it's so it's so easy to overlook that, but no, it's so key. Let's talk about your business for just a second. You founded RLB Training and Development. It has a focus on leaders emerging as well as existing out in the workplace. What have you found through your company is, how can I word this? We all know leadership is essential. What have you found to be the key ingredients to communicating the importance of that? So it's not just some super, yeah, yes, of course leadership is important, right? Because everybody says that. No one's going to say leadership's not important. But
I
to
think
communicate at a deep level, no, it really is.
one of the questions I like to ask, and particularly the real senior leaders, and especially people who have their own businesses, what's the legacy you want to leave?
Mm,
How do you want people to remember you? How do you want people to remember your business? How well do you think that's going right now? And a
Mhm.
lot of times, if they're being honest, they'll be like, well, okay, maybe fairly well, somewhat effective. Again, whatever it might be. Sometimes my point is, though, just trying to get them to think about if you want to be the best you possibly can be, there are things we can do to help you. And it is not to come in and turn your business upside down because I'm not qualified to do that. What I
Mhm.
can help you with, again, is the people aspect. That's what I know best. You know about your products, you know about your market, you know all of these different things. I'll help you with the people. And then they have to be open to that.
Yeah. Do you find, working with leaders of small business, medium business, big business, some person may have a team of 5 people, the next person might have a team of 5,000 and anything in between, right? Do you find that whether it's 50, 500, 5,000, 50,000, 500,000, right? Fortune 500 company. Do you find that this subject changes based on the type of company and the amount of people, or is it pretty much the same whether you're leading 5,000 or five? I mean, same principles.
The principles never change. The principles themselves never change. What I do find, and I find this interesting too, is that regardless of the size of the organization, you can be looking at a company with 100 people. You can be looking at a company with 500, whatever it might be. You're always going to have pockets of people who are willing to change. You're going to have pockets of people who are like, nope, nope, everything's fine here. We've done it
Hmm.
this way forever. And again, interestingly, Frank, to that point, with senior leaders, if we're going to make big changes within organizations, I always say to them, let's make the changes. If you're on board, we can absolutely do this, except two things of which you need to be aware. Number one, in all likelihood, you're going to lose some people who don't want to deal with these changes. And you're probably going to need to let some people go who do not want to deal with these changes. And if you're not willing to do that, then let's not bother because we're wasting each other's time.
Wow. That reminds me of probably the first, I don't know if it was the first, it was certainly one of the early books I read in a corporate thing back from when I was a corporate employee. And they got the whole organization together. I mean, it was like 400 people, 400 or 500, something like that, to read the book Who Moved My Cheese.
Hmm.
Now, I was young at the time. I mean, I was early 30s, if I recall. Right. So you're full of energy, let's rock and roll. We're doing the job. It's fun. And what I thought was interesting was they had the room, if you're, and that was where we introduced the disc for the first time back then.
Yeah.
And so they separated this big room, large auditorium room, and they're like, all right, if you're a D, you're over here, and
Right.
I don't remember words, but you're in four corners now.
Right.
What I found was very interesting, and I never forgot this lesson, but I just didn't understand how to apply it. The S's, the steadies, the don't like to change,
Right.
by far was the biggest group, by
Yeah.
far. And I remember thinking, that's weird. Because I thought, well, change is always happening. Like, why would you be afraid? Because everything's always changing. And I didn't even really necessarily understand it, but that was what I thought. But it taught me a lot of people really don't like change. And it seems like that really hasn't changed much. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. There will be people who are amenable to a change quickly. It's fun. It's exciting. It tends to be the smaller, the smaller, a smaller group of people. With the people who are resistant to the change, my experience has been number one, you've got to keep talking to them, and letting them know These are the reasons we're doing this. These are the reasons we're doing this. Stay in touch with them and let them know. Again, just communicate, communicate, communicate. Some of them will change, or some of them will become will adapt. Not all of them. One thing that I like too, though, Frank, and this was so meaningful to me. I'm a huge reader, like I said to you. I was I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I still remember I was at a gate at the airport. My flight was delayed, and I was reading a book by Jack Welch, and he was talking about change in this particular chapter. And the one thing he talked about was always trumpet the goal. Always trumpet the goal. This is what we're going to accomplish. Rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, yeah, well, that just makes perfect sense. I mean, that's common sense. He went on to say, not everybody will buy into the rah, rah stuff. He said, if you really want to try to get both sides of the equation on board, you need to let people know what your fears are if nothing changes.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, that's really good. Example, going all the way back to Toshiba. Okay. We reorganize, we get a new general manager slash CEO on board for our division. We're very, very small, 600 people. Brian Merriman is the guy who's coming on board. Brian's goal, and we all knew this, double market share in 4 years. It was like, you're kidding. It's like, no, we need to double market share in 4 years. He
Mm.
invited, quote unquote, everybody who worked east of the Mississippi River to a meeting in New Jersey at a hotel. I'll never forget. He's on the stage and he's talking. He goes, okay, folks, we're going to double market share in 4 years. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be a lot of work. And, it's going to be great. Okay. And then he stopped. So now he did the rah rah. And then he went to, you know what? And he hesitated. And he very, very quiet in the room said, if we don't double market share in 4 years, Sharp, Rico, Konica, our competitors, will eat our lunch. This division closes if we don't double market share. Guys, unemployment doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. Let's double market share. Both sides of the equation. And I
Mm.
love that. And again, it also goes back to, though, not everybody is going to buy into it. And you know what? If that's the case, so be it. Except you can't be a part of us anymore. That's just, you don't get it both ways.
Right, right. I love that. I mean, what a great example. What a great example. And it's so true. When we share, it's important to hear both sides because it gives perspective rather than thinking in an echo chamber.
Exactly. Rather than just yay, yay, we're the best
Yeah.
ever. Let's sit around and sing. Yeah, that's fun. Except let's look at what the reality is if this doesn't happen.
Right, right. Yeah, we gotta make it happen. I love it. Let's step back just for a moment in time. What did you do before leadership training?
Going all the way back, Frank, to the beginning of my career, the first 10, 12 years was in HR. And
Hmm.
the story itself is very interesting because I there were about 5 or 6 of us. Yeah, we had worked together at a bank and a couple other places. We started our own HR consulting firm, and for a number of different reasons, we decided to close the doors. At the time, I was going through a very uncomfortable, very ugly divorce. I had nowhere to go except back to my mom and dad's house. So I'm living with my mom and dad. I'm looking for work out of nowhere. I got a telephone call from this guy in Dallas, Texas. I'm in New Jersey. Ron, I know who you are. I tracked you down. I've got a job with Toshiba that is the exact opposite of what you are. They're looking for somebody that has a lot of training and some HR. You have a lot of HR and some training. I will get you in front of them. I can guarantee you an interview. You need to get them to flip their competencies. So I went and I talked with the people at Toshiba. They flipped their competencies. I got into sales training. They helped me to get into leadership development, and that's where I've been ever since.
Wow. Wow. So this all started in the Toshiba days.
That's right.
You mentioned sale. You've mentioned sales a couple of times. Um, sales is an interesting thing because everybody is always selling. Yet most people say they hate sales.
Hmm.
What have you, as you've been like, let me rephrase, what percentage of what you do revolves around this idea of selling?
I think I'm going to answer that by saying, and in fact, I'll quote John Maxwell. Uh, he was interviewed one time for one of his books. Somebody asked him, John, define leadership. And he was like, well, how long do you have? Because we could sit here for hours and talk about that. Define it as succinctly as you can. And his answer was leadership is influence. And I think, and my point is, everything I do, I am trying to persuade, I'm trying to influence people because I can't tell anybody what to do. I have no control over what people do, what people say, whether they implement the things we talk about or not. That's not up to me. My job is to present the material or present the information as best I know how, and then you've got to make the decision about how you're going to use it.
So true. So true. So let's talk about influence. We live in a social media influence world
Yeah.
heavily. I mean, this podcast, this will be on Spotify, Apple,
Hmm.
YouTube.
Hmm.
Snippets will go out to the social media world. In a world that's so loud, right? Because
Yeah.
now everybody, literally everybody, has the opportunity to exert influence because of these tools that are available to us today, which is in, which is amazing when you stop and think about it. The power that the empowerment of people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too many people paint facades. We all know that. Show your best life, social media. We've all heard that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But to truly be a person of influence, you'll hear things about, oh, you just got to go viral, sell this, that. To truly be a person of influence, what does that look like for today's leaders with so much noise in the world, in particular the social media world?
I believe so strongly. One of the most important things anybody can do, regardless of the position they hold or regardless of the work they do, whatever it might be, get to know yourself extraordinarily well. Because the better you know yourself, the more effectively you will work with other people. And the point for me is, I know myself really, really well. What do I do well? Again, I was talking about it earlier. I facilitate well. I'm a good resource to people. I'm a good coach. My sweet spots, small, mid-sized firms. That's where I do my best work because I'm by myself. I don't have a lot of bandwidth. And and also and again, for me at least, going back to whenever I talk to people, all I'm going to try to do, I'll present my best self to you absolutely within what I do well. And my point being, there's a company with whom I've been speaking recently. They're uh, a monitoring firm, an alarm firm, if you will. And the director of HR asked me, could you please send me some information about your future development program? Sure. And we've had a couple of different conversations. This was before the new year. And I sent her the information. She said to me, "I'll, I haven't had time to review it yet. I'll get back to you." And I haven't heard from her. I followed up with her yesterday, and my point simply is, I'm not going to go chasing because that's not who I am. If she, I did my best. Here's the information. You know who I am. If you choose to work with me or you want more information, wonderful. If not, that's out of my control. And I'm not going to waste time on that because it's not worth it to me.
Love it. Love it. Oh, yeah, no. No chasing. No chasing. Very important. Let me ask you, as a business owner, running a coaching business, helping executives, leaders, and so forth, what would you say the biggest mistake you have ever made is, but because you made it, it propelled you forward massively?
My biggest mistake, I'll go back to Toshiba. Okay. I had been on board for a short period of time, maybe 7, 8 months, whatever it was. Got off to a wonderful start, just a wonderful start, and becoming the golden boy very, very quickly. Oh, Ron's doing all this great stuff for us. Blah 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 blah. I was facilitating a 5 day sales training slash product knowledge class. I denied a nobody. I did not know the products as well as I should have. And what I thought I could do was to sort of skate through the product knowledge piece and concentrate on the selling skills, which I knew very, very well. Wednesday morning, two people from Philadelphia came up to me and just said essentially, "You don't know what you're doing. We're out of here." And they left. About an hour and a half later, I got a telephone call from Tony Codiani, my boss's boss. Tony's in California, ripping me to shreds. "I just got a call from the dealership in Philadelphia. They walked out on you. What are you doing? What's the matter with?" He tore me to shreds, rightly so. My point, what I
Mm,
learned from that, and I have implemented it ever since. I will never ever ever walk into a class, a coaching session, or a podcast unprepared. I
mm,
won't do it because I
mm.
never want to experience that again, ever,
Yeah,
ever. And I haven't, and I won't. I refuse.
yeah. Mm. There's a lot to be said for being prepared, as we all know. So I think we can all relate to that story, I bet, if we're all honest with ourselves. We have those moments. It's like, yeah, that brings the memory back, right?
Yeah.
So, like stopping it. Okay, we've already forgiven ourselves from that. Let's not
Right.
replay
Exactly.
that. So, um, two more questions. One is today's leaders arguably under more pressure than ever, right? There's so much noise in the world.
Yep.
And again, going back to social media, if somebody even takes a quarter step the wrong direction, it's almost like a lynching is happening every few minutes on social
Hmm.
media.
Hmm.
Because everyone is, I always say the phrase, everyone is an armchair quarterback, de facto full-time expert at every subject, 24/7, 365, without any notice, which is effectively the antithesis of what you just said about being prepared. However, when you're in leadership, you got to deal with that. How do you, like, what would your message to leaders today be when you're dealing with such arguably extreme pressure to, it's almost not even to perform, it's to not make a mistake, which is not the best path forward as it is. Like, what are your thoughts?
I am. I'm a huge, huge believer in Stephen Covey's work in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I'm going to refer to habit 7, sharpen the saw, which essentially means you've got to take good care of yourself in the
Mhm.
4 dimensions of life. Stephen talks about the body, the heart, the mind, and the spirit. And you've got to take care of yourself in all 4 of those aspects of your life, because if you don't, you're not going to be good for anybody. And
Mhm.
when I'm taking good care of myself, I'm okay. I'm okay. And I mean that. And and again, and I'm good at this because it's very, very important to me. I work out pretty regularly. Even though I'm getting older now, I don't work out as rigorously as I used to. I take the dog for an hour walk every day whenever I'm in town. I read voraciously. I will do my meditation, and just my whole point is, Frank, simply that people need to take care of themselves, because the pressure can become so enormous, it can be
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will tell you that, my the client I mentioned out in Indianapolis, I am I'm not sure I want to say deeply still. I have some concerns about a couple people on that leadership team who don't take care of themselves. And I'm like, man, you guys, you got to lose weight. And I haven't said it to them because I'm just not
Yeah.
comfortable, and they know it themselves. You've
Right.
got to
Right.
lose weight. You've got to start taking care of yourself, because I see a heart attack coming very, very soon. And
Mhm.
again, it goes back to the relationships we've been talking about. I care about these people. They're my
Right.
clients.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You know what else they are? They're my friends. They're
Mm.
my friends, and I care. And again, I want to see them take care of themselves so that the pressure doesn't get to them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. That's so true. Last question. As leaders, we're gonna screw some things up. Some will be small, some will be ginormous, like inexplicably huge. Some will be mid-size. I mean, we're gonna get all, if we stick around leadership long enough, we're gonna hit all the boxes.
That's right.
From tiny to massive, and when we think it's massive, we'll do a bigger one. Right?
That's
Like
right.
it's just part of the
That's
growth
right.
pattern.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the hardest lessons to learn is to forgive yourself,
That's right.
forgive others.
Hmm.
How do you encourage people to get past the weight that is so extraordinarily easy to hold on to, especially when you do your best? And I know this has happened to me and other people I know. You did your best, you really did your best, and you let people down. And that forgiveness and to be able to move on. How do you help people with that?
For me, it goes back to emotional intelligence and letting people know. And I always ask people, how fair is it to say we all make mistakes at work? Every single hand goes up. Of course we do. Okay. So then we all make mistakes. When you make a mistake, you apologize very, very, very quickly. You apologize, you admit your mistake, and as best you can, folks, this is on me. Here's what I'm going to do to rectify it. This is what I will do to try to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I always say to people, what's the message you're sending to your colleagues when you admit your mistakes? I'm human. Yeah, it goes back to your role. It's about the people. I'm a person too. I've made a mistake. This one's on me. I'm sorry. This, and just whatever, however you need to apologize, you do it,
Hmm.
and then you deal with the consequences.
Yeah, yeah. It's so important. It's so important in today's world where it's like it's moving so fast. It's never been easier to make a mistake quickly
That's right.
because it's going so fast.
Right.
So I made a mistake. I'm gonna have to ask you one more question if that's okay. Which I wasn't planning to, but in just hearing your answer, it hit me because it's the craze of today and it's going to impact leadership. Where do you see AI's role? with what you do in leadership training moving forward.
A lot of people are bringing that up, and I think AI can be so unbelievably helpful. There's no doubt about it. I mean, just the more information we can have at our fingertips, the better off. And my answer always is there are still people involved.
Mm,
We get the information. It is about what do we do with that information? How well do we share it with other people? And just how can we use that information to work more collectively or more collaboratively? Because it's still about the people.
yeah. Mm, love it. Well, Ron, we got a little deep, a little
I
bit.
enjoyed it.
We could get deeper, I guess, but we'll go with that. So, no, I appreciate you sharing. And to our listeners, some great insights today. Like leadership is not an easy path, as you can tell by what we talked about today. Lots of perspectives, lots of growth, lots of mistakes to be made. But thank goodness for people like Ron that help people in a position of leadership navigate those waters and get better at what they do, no matter what it is they're facing. So if you want to reach out to Ron, we'll have links to him below. If you it might be interested in his services, feel free to reach out to him and take in some of the materials that he shared and so forth. So Ron, I want to thank you again for popping on the show today. Thank you so much for your insights. Can you leave us with a final word?
You know, the only thing I'm going to repeat what I said before. If you want to be effective, no, regardless of your role, get to know yourself. Get to know yourself really, really well. Because when you do that, man, great things can happen. So, Frank, I have to say, too, this has been a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate your time. I love having these kinds of conversations. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing with us, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.